All right, we're live.
Welcome back, everybody. Another weekly SEO jam, although I guess we're now like an every other weekly,
Bi-weekly.
a bi-weekly SEO, a bi-monthly SEO jam. Excited to have you guys back. Those of you guys who are building SEO empires, I feel like it's certainly gotten more challenging out there in the sense that it's more competitive than it's ever been, but it's also more rewarding. And when you do lock clients in and get them into this kind of game, it's a win-win thing that tends to stick around for a long time. I was just hanging out with Alex Neem at Scale with Stability, and we were talking about selling agencies, and he says, it's very rarely that like Facebook ad agencies can be sold because their churn is really high. And he said the same thing is not necessarily true for SEO agencies. So that's my way of saying it's worth it for you guys who are on this journey. Lane, I wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit this week because I think this is a topic that you and I both know really, really well. But working with a white label partner, and I want to talk about like both the when this is done wrong, meaning like it's not a mutually beneficial relationship, and then how to do that the right way. Because you've ran a white label agency partner, quantum agency for nearly forever. I was not officially called a white label agency, but we were my first SEO agency for like 10 years. I got all my clients. I didn't have any front facing stuff. There was no website where you could go buy our stuff. It was all done through partners and things like that. So the first question I wanted to ask you is okay, you're going to work with a white label partner. Like, why should you even do that? And when should you know like that's a good idea and that's kind of a bad idea?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think there's a couple different reasons why agency owners would or do work with white label partners. They don't have to be, there can be others, but the main ones that I see typically would be they're just starting out and they can sell, they have relationships, they have a network, whatever, but they don't have, the real competencies and skill sets to do the technical work to move the needle, in an SEO campaign or to build a website, host it, what have you. And so they got to lean on, a white label partner that can handle those competencies and skill sets while they focus on selling. And by the way, that's like if you're starting out an agency, to me, that's the way to go. Like you have to focus on sales. If you're like a single owner agency and it's all you need to be 100% focused on sales. You can't get sucked into operations, fulfillment, because the minute you start building a website, you're out of sales. And you're like this, it's really hard to build a company that's up and down, up and down, up and down, where cash flows up and down. It's very painful and stressful. So if you're a single owner agency listening to this, you need to be focused on sales. And if you're not a good salesperson, well, they need to find somebody, because sales is the lifeblood of every single company. I mean, I was just talking to Frankie prior to us going live. My wife just got a new job, and she's been supporting. She works for public companies in her legal department, and she supports contract negotiations. And her whole job is to support sales teams. Now, these are for multi-billion-dollar publicly traded companies. And what is the lifeblood of that? Like, sales drives the entire organization that she works for. And she's going to another company that's even bigger, like 40 times bigger, and doing the same thing, supporting the sales division that closes contracts. So my point here is that sales is the lifeblood of every agency. And so if you're a single owner agency, this is the way to go. And then oftentimes for larger agencies, this is still the way to go, because option or reason B is they just want to build a lifestyle agency. So that's a real deal. It's a real thing. You can really build a business, an agency, digital marketing agency business. Frankie, kind of wrote the book on this. So, but I mean, you can literally build a business and work from anywhere in the world, from a laptop or a phone. I mean, I'm on my, my desktop today, but I mean, I work from this thing, on my phone 80% of the week. I'm on my phone working now. And so I run, a very large white label agency, even from my phone and a laptop largely. So, you can travel. But if you've got people and you've got employees and you've got payroll and you've got benefits and you've got, HR issues like people calling in sick and training and onboarding and firing and all of that stuff that comes with hiring all the people that have to do all the work, then it's pretty hard to build a lifestyle agency until you get very mature into your agency business. Then you can still have because that's the whole goal of building a company, is that it runs without you. But the gap between starting and getting there, where a company is almost running 100% without you, is probably a decade, give or take. I don't know what you think, Frankie, but
it definitely took me longer than a decade, even, really. I mean, it's like, because there's so much you don't know. And I also feel like, we've talked about this before, but of all the agency services, SEO is the most complex of all the deliverables, and ergo has the most number of moving pieces, and ergo is the hardest to systematize, organize, to outsource. Like, it takes a really, really long time to figure that out for SEO. Like, I think of my second agency, we had a couple of ads, a single landing page, and and a little bit of retargeting, and like that was fucking it, right? And so for that, like, that was a lot easier to systematize than like just a GBP, like updating it and then posting pictures and content and categories and claiming it and getting the details from the client. And that's one little piece. And we haven't even touched off page or their own website yet. And
so then, if we circle back to sales, think of all the moving parts that there are in getting your sales system, if we call it a system, up and running, right? And really systemized. That can take years, just to figure out sales and then systemize it, and then start to build account reps and build junior salespeople underneath you. And, that whole process will easily take 2 to 5 years, depending on your experience, at least. I mean, some people can do it faster, but, generally speaking, so each of these areas of an agency business can take many, many years to, 5 to 10 years, depending on, where you're at. So a white label partner just really shortcuts a lot of these necessities, and also, really allows and frees up the owner to focus on sales, and then, build whatever lifestyle they want to. Because once you figure out sales, you can, especially now with AI and automation and high level, like you can really get a sales automated, fairly well, and then just really run your business by just being in appointments and closing meetings all week long from wherever in the world you want to be, doing a lot of whatever you want to do. And then your white label partner handles all the, the painful stuff of all the people and all the fulfillment moving parts.
And there's a lot of value in being a middleman in that equation. Like, I think of when I was in like grade 6, 7, and 8, they start introducing dances, and it's a no-brainer for every kid, because they always haven't had them on a Friday afternoon, and you either spent like $5 and went to the dance, or you had to be that like one of like 5 kids and stay in class. It's like nobody wanted to stay in class, so we all did the dance. And I remember every time the dance started, like typical, 12, 13-year-old boys or whatever, and girls, all the girls go on one side of the gym and all the boys go on the other side of the gym. And for the first hour, all the boys are talking about is how they wish they could go over and talk to the girl, and all the girls are wishing they could go talk to the boys, and yet they sit awkwardly on opposite sides of the gym. And I think like agency services are a lot like that sometimes. Like, the people who need them and the people who sell the services should like just naturally connect on their own. And yet, in a lot of times, because if you're really good at SEO, as Lane mentioned, there's so many moving pieces and so much to do, that like there's a reason why he doesn't do all the front facing, although recently you have introduced some of those things, but why you don't chase clients one-to-one. It's because if you want to do like a really awesome deliverable, like you got to really be on top of that. And then the flip side, as you mentioned, if you can really focus on sales and not be bogged down with trying to find that next freelancer, or having to figure out getting logins and access. Like, I've seen this, and I'm sure you have 1,000 times. Like, nothing stops sales faster than as soon as I sign a couple of clients, I got 80,000 things to do to get the project started and moving and all of that. And then you take your foot off the sales. And as you mentioned, like you see this over and over and over again, where nothing, you know, like your income will go like a kind of a roller coaster like that. So I'm huge on label partners. Obviously, you know, there's some good ones and some bad ones in the space. Like not everybody, you know, can do what they say they can do. But having said that, having somebody who's like in your corner to me is like, imagine you run a restaurant and all of a sudden now you hire a good chef and you know that when people come in, like food's going to get made, it's going to be delicious, they're going to have a good experience, and then all you got to focus on doing is getting people in the restaurant and, you know, running Facebook ads or advertising it or stopping people on the street. Would you like to try a lunch special? Or maybe giving away free samples or doing local events or doing whatever it is you do to fill the restaurant, but you don't have to be bogged down with actually running a fucking restaurant, which is most of the work, by the way, which is why most restaurants aren't that good at advertising. So I think it's a really harmonious thing. And I think it's really good, as you mentioned, for people. I find like using that restaurant analogy, people are really built one way or another, where you're like a really good back of house person. And when I used to like work back of house, like my first ever real job, I was at Red Lobster. And I remember, like, you know, when you're a chef, I'm not really a chef at Red Lobster, but, you know, a cook, a line cook, you know, you wear sweatpants, you got a hairnet, you look like a bum, but you're not front facing. And so you don't really need to be. And the flip side of that is when you're front facing, all the people who work front of house, they were all showered. The ladies had makeup on, all the guys had their hair done, and they had to, you know, be in their charm and their sort of extroverted, outgoing state. And usually, like, you as a person running an agency will gravitate to one of those roles. Either you're front facing and you like selling and recruiting people, or you're back of house and you like just wearing the sweatpants and doing it. But I find the more you kind of like own those roles, and for most of you guys, you became internet marketers because you know how to sell shit, right? So you're the extroverted front facing. I wouldn't say 100% of the time, but like 80, 90% of the time, you're better at selling it than fulfilling it. And so that means to me, like, one of the cheat codes is to find a good partner that you know is going to be your back of house, so that all you got to focus on doing is getting people into the restaurant and doing that day after day. And I actually think, and by the way, the upside on this, I don't know what you've seen in your end, but I've got friends that got agencies that have hit 8 figures, 10 million a year, that are entirely white label agencies. Obviously, that's more of an exception than the rule. But, you know, I know plenty of people that are
well into the 7 figures you can go with white label. I mean, and at that point, it's really how big do you want it to be? Yeah. You know, so let's quick talk about finding a good partner, because it is kind of like you know, it's an unregulated industry, you know, and so you do have
wild west.
Yeah, it's the wild west. You got to be careful. So the lay of the land in the white label industry is really, you have kind of we fit in between, you know, but there's very few white label agencies like us that aren't like massive, but we're not like small either, right? Like I wouldn't call us boutique, but we're not like these big, like the Hoff, Agency Elevation, Semify. Like you keep going into all of those bigger ones. They're huge, and they're great. Nothing wrong with them, but they typically cater to larger accounts. You're going to deal specifically with an account rep. You're not going to deal with the owner or a high level person. Typically, you're dealing with a sales rep on the white label partner side, right? So the account reps typically have minimal experience, and so that lends itself to one thing. And then as the bigger, the thing really the biggest thing that motivated me to get into the white label niche was the extreme lack of quality that I saw and found and experienced in the white label industry through my years when I was running my own generalist agency. So, you know, my first 9 years in the business, I ran a generalist agency, and so I dabbled in trying to find white label partners, and just like every time got pushed back to going and trying to do it myself, because I couldn't find anybody that could actually do consistently quality work. Meaning, like, okay, 1 month there might be some really good blog articles, or for 3 months there might be great blog articles or whatever, good quality work across all the campaigns. But then all of a sudden, in 1 or 2 campaigns, it would just be like a disaster, and I would lose the client like immediately because it was so bad. And so, you know, that inconsistency drove me to build it myself. And then, you know, ultimately back in 2018, we decided to go into the white label niche and offer what we had built to other agencies as a, kind of a partnership deal like that. So you have the big ones, and then you have a lot of these fly-by-nighters, and that's the ones you really got to be careful of. There's a lot of them on Facebook. They say they're a white label. If you ask for a white label, this or that, they'll pipe in. Your feed will get filled with people going, "I can do it. I can do it. I can do it." Half of them are offshore. The other half are here in the U.S. or wherever.
And
but
there'll be a crypto expert by tomorrow, and an AI automation. Like every 5 minutes, there's something else. Yeah,
that's you really got to stay away from. Okay. And then I think the third option, which really isn't white label, but you have to be really cautious. I think it's a terrible model, but some people would consider it as white label in that they're an agency owner, and then they basically hire freelancers to do their work for this and that and this and that. That is a terrible model for the agency owner. It yields incredible inconsistencies. You don't have any employees. You have basically neither of the advantages of either your a true in-house team, or a true white label team. You have kind of the worst of both.
Yeah. Can I just say, as somebody who operated on that model, like behind the scenes, you feel like you're constantly trying to pull off miracles on like tiny budgets.
Yeah. So don't go down the freelancer model. If you really want to have your own team, then build your own team. Damn it, do it. But don't do it via freelancers. That's not white label, and that's not also your own team. So yeah, be careful of the one-man shops, one-woman shops, people that pipe in on Facebook. Oh, I can do it. I can do it. DM me. Do some real due diligence on their company to make sure that they really are, not just a one-man, two-man shop, because that just spells disaster for you.
Yeah,
you gotta have more. You gotta have a bigger operation. Someone that's got real experience, real team members that can come in behind you and basically take over everything for you without you having to worry about it.
Yeah.
And our white label partners, our agency partners, they know. They talk to me. They're not talking to a sales rep, which is why we don't. I don't grow incredibly fast. Now we do have account managers, so they get handed off to account managers very quickly. But I'm always there as the strategic partner that they can talk to. I talked to one of our agency partners yesterday around SEO. A couple of campaigns are not doing so well. I get on the phone, we talk about it. Well, there was a March core update that was released. There's some things that we can probably fix on the website. But, these are the things you got to look into, because not every campaign is going to go great. When you only have 5 campaigns, no big deal. You get to 20, 30, 40 campaigns as an agency, the numbers just start to add up where you're going to start to have a couple of problem children, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say statistically about 5 or 10%. And it's always, I'll tell you, just as somebody did it, it never made any sense to me, because I do the same shit on all of them. And you've got 100 campaigns and you do the same shit on all of them. And 80, 90 of them, it's helping. And 5 or 10 of them are lagging. I never really understood why that is. But
and that's I call it, we have to go into the haystack and start looking for the needle, right? And that's almost, what it is. Now, we obviously have we know that there's some areas of the haystack to focus on to find the needle, that is going to actually move the needle, right? So, but it's still a haystack, and so you do have to kind of go in and dig in and roll up your sleeves and look at the website and look at a lot of technicals, and a lot of the boring stuff. But when you have campaigns that get stuck, your bigger companies, they don't care. You can just cancel and they'll keep moving on. The smaller guys, they're doing everything themselves, so, they can only handle so much. So a lot of times your campaigns fall kind of on deaf ears until you make a bunch of noise when rankings aren't doing well. And then that one-man shop will go put some attention on your campaigns. You don't want that kind of situation either. So,
yeah,
I know
we want them to be proactive, not reactive. Well, cool, dude. Let's give it. We're coming up on time here, but let's give a shout out to your agency. Which, by the way, I just want to throw out there. The number one question I got asked over the last 5 years: you're starting out, you want to get to 10K a month. What would you do? And I decided to build an agency in the water damage restoration space. And Lane was our guy in the corner there. And I'll tell you, I would not have been able to focus on sales exactly as he mentioned had we not done that. And not if you don't know, there's a good back of house behind you. But anyways, tell folks a little bit about your agency if they're interested in working.
Yeah, quantumagency.io. Feel free to go check us out on the web. Quantumagency.io. We do white label web dev, hosting, SEO, PPC, and branding / social. We do mostly web dev and SEO and PPC. Social branding comes along for the ride. We're very, very good at what we do. We have a phenomenal team. We're at about 34, 35 team members. And I'll close with this. If you're an agency owner listening to this, and you're struggling with your revenue and your sales and your cash flow, and you're doing work yourself, stop. The way out of that very quickly is to focus 100% of your time on sales, build that entire system out around your company, and find a white label partner that can handle all of the back end stuff. Because if you're getting stuck in building a website, doing SEO, building a PPC campaign, whatever, you are out of sales, and that's not how a company is going to grow. So yeah. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway I can probably leave everyone with today. It doesn't have to be us as a white label partner. We do a really good job, and we'd love to talk to you. But find a white label partner that you can lean into, you can leverage, you can depend on, so you can put all of your focus, energy, and time into sales, and you're just going to see this lift that happens once you do that, and you stop selling and then bolting off into getting focused on the computer and doing all the work. That's a recipe for either failure or just a long, many years of just slogging through the agency business without really getting the freedom and the lifestyle that you're looking for.
Which is what it's all about. All right, brother, I got a jet. We're a minute over here, so appreciate you guys.
Have a great day, everyone.